I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, terror in France. Arson attacks target high-speed rail lines just hours before the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. Visit to Florida. Israel's prime minister continues his trip to the United States by meeting with Republican nominee Donald Trump. Fast-moving fire. New developments in the blaze sweeping across parts of Canada. And talent pool. An all-girls Catholic school outside of the nation's capital makes a unique contribution to the U.S. Olympic swim team. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Joachim and Anne. Our top story tonight, arsonists attacked the high-speed rail system in France just hours before the opening ceremonies of the Paris Olympics. The strikes paralyzed train travel to Paris for around 800,000 people. Some of the delays even impacted Olympic athletes headed to the opening ceremonies. The coordinated attack targeted pipes containing critical signaling cables, and it effectively cut off access to Paris from every direction. Let's bring in Sarah Harmouche, PhD candidate in the Justice Law and Criminology Department at American University and founder of H9 Defense. Sarah, good to see you again. So what more do we know about these arson attacks? I know the CEO of SNCF, the National Railway Company, said the evidence indicates, quote, a desire to seriously harm. What more can you tell us?
So currently the perpetrators of the attacks and the motives have not been identified. I know French authorities have been investigating this and under the framework of organized crimes rather than counterterrorism. While nothing has been reported yet, the type of attack and how well coordinated and how well organized it was hints at a significant reconnaissance by the perpetrators or an insider knowledge. But nothing as more that has been reported on the attack currently or the possible range of actors that French authorities are even considering.
Yeah, I know security is always tied to host cities during the Olympics, and Paris, no doubt, no exception there. The city, as we know, is no stranger to terror attacks either. That said, Sarah, what can you tell us about what the security is like at the Olympics this year? That being said, too, how could something like this have happened?
Tracy, as you said, any host city has usually very high security and very stringent measures, and I'm sure Paris and France have been tightening all their security measures, especially after hints of the attack on Friday when they deployed a more massive security operation to consider all these threats. Despite all of these stringent measures, what I can tell you is the attack was well coordinated, evaded any security and surveillance measures, which does show vulnerability in our infrastructure, which should be paid attention. However, I also would want to be worried about that this attack could be another distraction for an attack that could follow, where France end up shifting its resources and allocates it towards that specific the infrastructure and the rail networks, and then happen and an attack follow up somewhere else. So despite all of that, this does suggest high reconnaissance by the perpetrators or insider knowledge, and without knowing the motives of the perpetrators and who they are, it's hard to really know how they also evaded all of these surveillance measures.
All right, so there's so much more we can talk about, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you so much for weighing in. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much, of course.
Former President Donald Trump, battling Vice President Kamala Harris for the Oval Office in November, sits down today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump told reporters the hostages being held by Hamas have to be given back immediately, adding there can be no way they're in any good shape and that it's a very tough situation. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Tracy, in that Florida meeting with Netanyahu, former President Donald Trump also said the hostages held by Hamas are obviously not being treated properly and fears many of the hostages, quote, will not be okay. Former President Donald Trump welcomes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. Their first face-to-face talks in nearly 4 years. Trump and Netanyahu last met in September 2020 at a White House signing ceremony for a top diplomatic achievement of both men's political careers, the Abraham Accords. Netanyahu met Thursday with Kamala Harris, the vice president saying she will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself and that Israel has a right to defend itself, adding,
let us all do what we can to prevent the suffering of innocent civilians and let us condemn anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate of any kind.
Outside the West Wing Thursday afternoon, we asked families of Americans held hostage by Hamas about President Joe Biden's moving out in 6 months. With President Biden leaving in January, do you believe that impacts in any way the ability to free your family members?
On the contrary, I actually think it allows the president to be laser focused on the things that are true priorities to him.
Just over 3 months till Election Day, Harris now locked in a battle with Trump for the Oval Office.
I'll tell you, I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling.
Trump planned to debate President Biden in September on ABC, but now he wants to shift the debate with Harris to Fox News. Meantime, Harris finally picked up an endorsement from former President Barack Obama, who waited several days to announce his support.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Also tonight on President Biden's schedule today, we're told he spoke by phone with the King of Jordan about the war in Gaza and efforts to free the hostages and secure a ceasefire. He also received a briefing on AI, artificial intelligence, and then it's off to Camp David for the weekend. He'll return here to the White House on Sunday. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, are we headed for yet another threat of a government shutdown? House lawmakers won't return until mid-September, and there are still a half a dozen government funding bills that need to be passed by Congress, and the deadline is October 1st. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with more on that. Eric.
Well, good to see you, Tracy. You know, bottom line, it just wasn't supposed to be this way. House Speaker Mike Johnson had promised that members wouldn't go home until the August recess, until all the spending bills were passed. But it really hasn't worked out that way. Just this week, GOP leadership pulled 3 funding bills from the schedule over internal bickering, leaving some grumbling about the spending mess.
We know the reality on September 30th. I wish our leadership would address that reality, that they're probably going to be forcing us to vote on a CR. I won't be continuing Nancy Pelosi's budget.
Like last year, these funding bills contain pro-life measures and other provisions that Democrats and some Republicans opposed. So are we headed for a repeat of last year's spending fights?
Here we are again. The Republicans have managed to put themselves in a terrible situation where they've made bills that are so extreme.
Extreme MAGA Republicans are marching us to a government shutdown.
And that's not all. The House did pass the bipartisan $923 billion National Defense Authorization Act, which funds our military. But it's been stuck in the Senate for months. Republicans had expected it to be brought up before the August recess and accused Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of purposely delaying it.
This bill is the bill that contains the authorities for our men and women that serve in uniform. This is the national security for our great country, and yet Chuck Schumer has decided that this is the least of his priorities.
We've had the NDAA done the last 4 years in June every year. Chuck Schumer holds the defense budget hostage till December, where he can throw all of his goodies in there.
My suggestion to the majority leader is, why not bring it up? I think that's a better way for us to be spending our time on something important and necessary than dealing with assistant secretaries of this, that, or the other.
So what's the solution? Lawmakers tell me that they expect that the House will focus on passing yet another continuing resolution until December or even next March. Now, this avoids having to deal with a massive $1 trillion spending package under a lame duck president. But that also means that no raises will go to any of our military personnel and no increase in spending in government programs across the board. I'll definitely stay on top of it. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Eric. Well, the Supreme Court of Nebraska upholds a ban on so-called gender-affirming care for minors. The High Court also upheld Nebraska's 12-week abortion ban. The ACLU filed a lawsuit saying the measure violated the state constitution by combining 2 issues. The state argued there was no violation violation because both are related to health care. All right, now to Canada, where a fast-moving wildfire forces at least 25,000 people to flee a resort town in the Canadian Rockies. Flames are as high as treetops, devastating up to a half of the structures in the town of Jasper. Earlier this week, its 5,000 full-time residents and 20,000 visitors were forced to flee on short notice. Across the province, there are around 176 wildfires burning out of control. And another wildfire, this one in California, that is, sparked by a 42-year-old suspect who pushed a burning car into a gully. Authorities say 0% of the fire has been contained. Thousands of people are being evacuated there. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including headed to jail. Two alleged Mexican drug leaders are arrested in Texas. We have the latest. And re-election or opposition? Venezuela makes a decision this Sunday.
On Thursday, the Justice Department took into custody in El Paso 2 more alleged leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most violent and powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world.
Welcome back. Ismael El-Mayo Zambada had eluded U.S. authorities for decades, but that all changed with one stunning betrayal. A law enforcement officer said the son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman lured El-Mayo, as he is known, onto a plane saying that they were going to look at real estate. Instead, they landed right here in the U.S. yesterday afternoon. Both men were immediately taken into custody and face several charges for allegedly leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking networks. And for more on this, let's bring in Tony Pine. He is the director of the Center for the U.S. and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. For those who may not be all that familiar, tell us a little bit more about the Sinaloa cartel, that is, and why this is so significant, this development.
Yeah, the Sinaloa cartel is one of the largest criminal organizations, not just in Mexico. They got operations in Australia, in Europe, in South America, and of course, in Mexico and the United States. They are the #1 organization responsible for fentanyl smuggling from China, precursors, into Mexico, and of course fentanyl into the United States, which means 107 to 110,000 Americans who died every single year from overdoses of fentanyl. So they are a very significant organization in the criminal underworld.
Tony, how will these arrests impact their operation?
Well, you know, the Sinaloa cartel is one of the oldest organizations in Mexico. It had survived the onslaught against organized crime that began in 2007 with President Calderon in Mexico, which essentially fragmented just about all the other very large organizations. The Sinaloa cartel survived, and it's operated since under the command of the children of El Chapo Guzman, Mayo Zambada, and a few other leaders today. It's one of the more coherent organizations, hierarchical organizations in Mexico, a few, if not the only one left today, and obviously one that is reputed to have deals with the Mexican government to continue to operate in exchange for political support and perhaps even financial support of campaigns in Mexico. So they have actually penetrated the Mexican government deep all the way up to the presidency in some allegations in the past. So this is obviously a very important hit for the United States.
Yeah, and curious about this today. I mean, Joaquin Guzman Lopez is the son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who was captured back in 2016. So why would he turn on El Mayo?
Well, you know, there's always been an idea that Chapo Guzman was actually a lieutenant of El Mayo Zambada. The real head of the organization was El Mayo Zambada. Obviously, others believed that the Guzman family was really in charge, so it's very hard to tell exactly. This is an organization from which very little information escapes, so we really didn't know. What we do know is that all of them operated throughout the country, and they were a very powerful organization. And so having captured El Chapo Guzman, and then Ovidio Guzman, his son, and then now Joaquin Guzman, his other son, and Zambada obviously leaves the organization without their most important leaders. That doesn't mean that other lieutenants will not rise. It could also mean that the organization will fragment and that there will be a fight within the organization for succession of it, and that means more violence in Mexico. Obviously, the Mexican government is at a loss, I'm sure, but they will have to face that.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for coming on and weighing in and explaining all this to us. We really appreciate it. God bless.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, now to Venezuela, where the final preparations are being made for Sunday's presidential election. Voters are deciding whether to give another 6-year term to Nicolas Maduro or completely shift from 25 years of Socialist Party rule. Sunday is said to be the Socialist Party's toughest test in decades. Many voters blame Maduro for the economic problems that have hurt the country over the past 11 years. His opponents include 74-year-old Edmundo Gonzalez, a former diplomat. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, it is game time. At the start of the Paris Olympics, the Vatican renews a call for a global truce. Plus, learn about the all-girls Catholic school outside of the nation's capital making waves during the Olympics. Olympics are underway, and as athletes and spectators travel across the globe, the Vatican urges nations to observe the Olympics truce and global ceasefire for peace. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Tannhauser has more.
The Olympic truce is a tradition dating back to ancient Greece. It calls for a halt to all conflicts during the Olympic Games and for 7 days before and after. Its purpose was to ensure the safe passage of athletes, spectators, artists, and pilgrims to and from the Games. 3,000 years later, it is still being invoked.
According to ancient tradition, may the Olympics be an opportunity to establish a truce and wars, demonstrating a sincere desire for peace.
From the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Israel's war in Gaza, and the violence in Myanmar. These are some of the places Pope Francis has expressed a hope will call a truce during the Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games. The Holy Father recalled the great social power of sport, capable of peacefully uniting people from different cultures.
I hope that this event may be a beacon of the inclusive world we want to build, and that athletes, with their sporting testimony, may be messengers of peace and authentic models for young people.
Earlier this week, a Mass for Peace was celebrated on the day of the start of the Olympic truce for the Paris Games. Diplomats, sports personalities, and the president of the International Olympic Committee were present. In a recent interview with EWTN News, the French ambassador to the Holy See reiterated that Olympism is first and foremost a message of peace.
Sports and the Olympics are indeed moments of great effort, performance and achievement. But everything is based on the respect for others, the respect for different nations, and the respect for each other's performances. The Games can be individual or collective, but it is about doing something together.
The concept of the Olympic truce was revived in 1992 with the aim of protecting the interests of the athletes and to harness the power of sport to promote peace and dialogue. Voted by the United Nations, this year's truce began on July the 19th, 1 week before the opening ceremony of the Games, and it will end 1 week after the end of the Paralympics on September the 8th.
The Olympic truce, which is one of the most beautiful expressions of the Olympic spirit, is a seed of peace planted in this world. Amidst all conflicts and divisions, it is a moment during which hands are freed from weapons to build peace. And this offers hope that the Olympic truce may inspire political and human traces, making the world a more fraternal place, as Pope Francis continually urges.
On the vigil of the Olympic opening ceremony, the official multi-sports association of the Holy See, Atleta Vaticana, sent an open letter to all Olympic athletes. The association reiterated Pope Francis's appeal for an Olympic truce and reminded all that the Olympic Games, beyond being antidotes to war games, are opportunities for hope. In Rome, Andres Tonhauser, EWTN News Nightly.
Finally, the games run into August 11th with the highly anticipated swimming events beginning tomorrow. The U.S. women's team features 3 swimmers, all of them from the same all-girls Catholic high school right outside the nation's capital. The trio is led by 7-time gold medalist Katie Ledecky, who is competing in the Olympics for the 4th time. She is joined by 2 other graduates from Stone Ridge School, Phoebe Bacon, who is now at the University of Wisconsin and is competing in her 2nd Olympics, and Erin Gamel, who attends the University of Texas and is competing in her 1st Olympic Games. What's more, Ledecky and Gamel are set to be on the very same 4x200 relay team. EWTN's Catherine Hajo recently caught up with someone who coached all 3 Olympians when they were students at Stone Ridge.
And joining us now is Bob Walker, head coach at Stone Ridge School of the Sacred Heart in Bethesda, Maryland. He coached all 3 of the Stone Ridge Olympians. Bob, thank you for joining us, and congratulations that 3 of your former students are in the Olympics. First off, is it unusual for the U.S. swim team to have 3 members from the same high school, let alone a Catholic high school at that?
Absolutely. So it's easier to have the college swimmers. Of course, they all venture from the best high schools in the country or all over, I would say, and they end up at a college. But from a high school, it's very hard to have one, let alone a couple. And here we are with 3. It's unique this year. We have the Walsh sisters on our Olympic team. Of course, they're sisters, so they went to the same high school. But to have a 3rd person from your high school, hard to do. So we're very blessed. 15% of the U.S. team, women's team, is from Stone Ridge High School. So that's pretty good.
Those are some good stats. And as we mentioned, Katie Ledecky has won 7 gold medals. She won her first when she was only 15 years old. Coach, when did you begin to think that Katie Ledecky would have a big impact on the international stage?
You always hope, right? You see these kids that are young, we'll say in that, from the girls' side, around 13, 14, right? When they kind of start getting into those end of the middle school, beginning of high school. And then our sport's very easy. We're time-based, of course. So you kind of can follow what trends have happened before swimmers, during their time when they're swimming, and after, and kind of project. And I don't want to see any projection is 100% accurate, but you kind of get a sense as she was coming along that she was going to be a good one right around that 14-year-old time.
Now to Phoebe Bacon and Erin Gamel. Tell us about their path from Stone Ridge to the Olympics. I understand Phoebe Bacon even went to the same Catholic grade school as Katie Ledecky.
She did. Katie and Phoebe never overlapped in high school. So when Phoebe was in 8th grade, Katie was in 12th grade. And so Katie graduates out of Stone Ridge and Phoebe comes to Stone Ridge. Interesting story for kind of the history buffs. Katie starts out, her first coach is Yuri Sugiyama as an age group coach, and her first coach when she won her first gold medal in London. He goes on to become a Cal assistant coach, and now he's the head coach of Wisconsin. And that might ring a bell because Phoebe now is at Wisconsin. So a little history lesson here is Yuri Sugiyama was Katie's Olympic coach in 2012, and that's Phoebe's coach right now at Wisconsin. And of course, when Yuri left, Bruce Gamel came in, which is Erin's dad, and that was Katie's coach. And then now we have Bruce Gamel coaching Erin Gamel, and then she goes on to Texas. So there's a kind of an overlap of coaching there.
What does it mean for the all-girls Catholic school in Bethesda to have 3 graduates swimming at the Paris Olympics?
It means a lot. It means a lot what you say. First of all, being all-female. This is an all-female school. I'm sure if you looked at, schools have males and females, and there's probably some males and females that came out of the same high school. But to be only half of a body being only female, that's already hard. And it's exciting for the community. I don't know if it's the water here or what we have, but we're doing something right. So we'll just keep doing those things, and hopefully we'll have 4 and 5 and 6 more beyond these 3.
I think so. You must be so proud. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Bob Walker, head coach at Stone Ridge School, who coached 3 Olympians. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Catherine Hadro, for that. And we're praying for all of them. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.